You ever feel your heart start racing for no reason, like somebody rang an invisible bell inside your chest? The air changes, your skin prickles, and before you can even think a thought, your body's already bracing for something that you can't see. That's anxiety, lightning before the storm. People call it worry, but it's older than words. It's biology, ancient as thunder. Your nervous system throws the first punch, and your mind scrambles to name the fight. But what if the storm isn't a sign you're broken? What if it's your body's doing exactly what it was built to do, just a little too often and for a little too long? Stay with me. We're going to talk about the weather inside you and how to read the sky before it breaks. Welcome to Human Beings Radio, a little garden for the mind, body, and spirit. Some days you bloom, some days you just hold the soil together. Either way, you're still growing. Ever step outside on a hot afternoon and just know a storm is coming? Before a single drop falls, before thunder even growls, something in the air changes. The light turns strange. The wind shifts direction. The hairs on your arms rise. That's your body sensing pressure before your mind catches up. That's anxiety too. Most people think anxiety starts in the head, with thoughts, with worry, with what-ifs. But really, the body feels it first. It's the air pressure drop inside you. That invisible moment when your nervous system catches scent of danger before you ever have words for it. I can always tell when mine's coming. My chest tightens first, like someone cinched a belt one notch too tight. Then my hands get restless, tapping, fidgeting, as if they're searching for an exit my brain hasn't found yet. And only after does my mind start racing to explain it. What did I forget? Who's upset with me? What's about to go wrong? It's like lightning before thunder, sensation before story. Science actually backs that up. When something triggers us, a sound, a smell, a half-remembered face, the message hits the body first. Your amygdala, that almond-sized part of the brain built to detect danger, fires off before your thinking mind even has a chance to weigh in. It's ancient wiring. In less than a second, your nervous system floods your bloodstream with adrenaline and cortisol, the same chemicals that our ancestors used to outrun tigers. We call this the sympathetic nervous system, or the fight, flight, freeze response. Here's the tricky part, though. Your body doesn't always know the difference between a tiger and a text message, between real threat and remembered threat, between what's happening now and what happened years ago. So it fires the same alarm, and suddenly you're sweating through your shirt at a staff meeting or lying awake at 2 a.m. with your heart pounding like it's sprinting from something unseen. But that's not weakness. That's survival equipment doing its job, just doing it a little too well. I grew up thinking that anxiety meant you were dramatic. At our house, the only people allowed to be nervous were preachers before Sunday service. The rest of us were expected to be tough. But my body had other ideas. By middle school, I was waking up with stomach aches so bad I couldn't finish breakfast. The doctors just called it nerves. Nobody explained that my body was carrying years of tension, like thunder building over dry fields, looking for a place to break. Back then, I didn't have words like amygdala or cortisol loop. I just knew I was tired of being afraid of nothing. It was later, studying psychology, that I learned that anxiety is the body's way of predicting pain. It's a faulty weather forecast that sees storms everywhere. Imagine your brain as a weather station. The amygdala is the radar, scanning constantly for dark clouds. When it spots anything suspicious, it sends a message down to the body. Batten down the hatches. Heart rate increases, muscles tense, breathing shortens, blood rushes to your limbs to prepare for action. Only after all that does the prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain, step in and say, wait, is there actually a storm? But by then, your whole system's already drenched. That's why anxiety feels so physical. It's not in your head. It's everywhere in you. The full body thunder of an alarm that never quite gets shut off. When you understand that, you stop blaming yourself for being overly sensitive. You start realizing your sensitivity is just your wiring turned up too loud. When my own anxiety hits, I can trace it like weather patterns. There's the early warning, a tight chest, restless hands. Then the clouds roll in, dizziness, tunnel vision, shallow breath. If I ignore it, the lightning starts, the racing thoughts, the catastrophizing, the impulse to run. That's my storm cycle. Everyone has their own version. For some, it's gut trouble, the vagus nerve tightening the stomach. For others, it's jaw clenching or shoulder pain. Your nervous system speaks through the body long before the mind listens. And if you grew up in chaos, homes where voices raised without warning, where safety was unpredictable, your body learns to keep the radar on high alert all the time. That's what psychologists call hypervigilance. It's the nervous system's way of saying, I won't be caught off guard again. Even when life gets calm, your body's still scanning the horizon, waiting for thunder. No wonder we're all exhausted. That's the cruel thing about chronic anxiety. It turns survival into a lifestyle. Your body can't tell when the danger's over, so it keeps you in a low hum of readiness. You might function just fine, go to work, raise kids, pay bills, but underneath your heart never fully unclenches. Now, when people talk about panic attacks, they're really describing what happens when that hum spikes into a roar. The alarm gets stuck. Adrenaline surges, the sympathetic system goes full throttle, and your body decides it's time to run or fight, even though there's nowhere to go. It's terrifying, but also temporary. Every panic attack has an arc. Rise, peak, fall. Like lightning striking and then fading back into rain. You're not losing your mind in these moments. You're experiencing the body's oldest reflex, one that just forgot how to stand down. Here's something that helped me once I learned the science. The same brain that triggers anxiety also holds the antidote. Right next to that fight-flight system is its opposite, the parasympathetic nervous system. That's the part that slows the heart, deepens the breath, digests your food, lets you rest. Think of it as the part that says, the storm's past, you can exhale now. The problem is, when we live anxious for years, we forget how to flip that switch. It's like a porch light that burned out long ago. You don't even reach for it anymore. So, anxiety isn't just a mental health issue. It's a regulation issue. It's the body's forgotten rhythm. And the first step in healing isn't silencing the storm. It's learning to read the sky again. When you know your own weather, you stop blaming yourself for rain. You start to say, okay, I feel the wind changing. Maybe I need shelter, not shame. That's awareness. That's the beginning of calm. And that's where we're heading next. Learning how to listen to those cues and bring the body back to balance before the lightning ever strikes. You're listening to Human Beings Radio, a little garden for the mind, body, and spirit. If something in today's episode is planting a seed, share it with a friend or water it a little by visiting humanbeingsradio.com. You'll find show notes, community links, and ways to help this project keep growing. We'll be right back with part 2 in just a sec. When I started to understand my own storms, I realized something humbling. The body keeps a longer memory than the mind. Every scare, every loss, every slammed door, it gets stored like weather data in the nervous system. That's why anxiety can flare on a quiet day. The sky looks clear, but your body still remembers the lightning. Neuroscience calls this implicit memory, the kind that lives in muscles and hormones instead of words. The body doesn't archive trauma in paragraphs. It saves it as a reflex. So when you smell a certain cologne or hear a tone of voice that once meant danger, the body responds before the story even loads. That's why you jump or sweat or freeze and can't explain why. Here's how it happens. Your amygdala detects a cue and rings the alarm. The hypothalamus sends a signal down the HPA axis. That's the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal chain. Cortisol floods in, heart races, digestion halts. You're primed for action. If the mind later decides, oh, it's just the neighbor's truck backfiring, the prefrontal cortex tells the system to stand down. But if your brain's been living in threat mode for years, that all clear signal doesn't travel fast anymore. So the body keeps bracing long after the danger is gone. That's why long-term anxiety feels like fatigue. Your system's been running a marathon with no finish line. I used to think I was lazy for needing to rest so often. Turns out I was just tired from being on red alert since childhood. When you grow up listening for slamming doors or angry footsteps, your muscles learn vigilance like it's a language. Recovery taught me that unlearning isn't just about strength. It's about safety. The body can't heal in a war zone, even a remembered one. And that's where the vagus nerve comes in. The longest nerve in the body, running from the brainstem down through the heart and gut, is the main switch of the parasympathetic system, the one that tells the body, we're safe now. When we breathe slow and deep, especially with a longer exhale, that nerve carries the message, stand down, digest, restore. That's biology's built-in peace prayer. So when people say, just breathe, it isn't empty advice. It is a physical intervention. Each breath is a hand on the thermostat, turning the heat of adrenaline back down a notch. You can't logic your way out of panic, but you can breathe your way through it. That's body literacy, learning to read your own signals instead of arguing with them. In recovery, we talk about surrender. And at first, that word did feel like defeat. But the more I studied anxiety, the more I saw it's the same idea. You can't outthink a lightning storm. You have to step under shelter and wait for it to pass. Surrender isn't giving up. It's getting low, grounding yourself until the charge disperses. I've had moments in grocery store parking lots where I had to do exactly that. Hands on the steering wheel, breathing low, whispering, "It's just a storm, honey. Let it pass." And that was enough, sometimes. Sometimes I had to call someone just to hear another voice in the calm. And that's because connection regulates too. Our nervous systems sync when we're near safe people. Science calls it co-regulation. Fred Rogers called it being a neighbor. The opposite of anxiety isn't calm, it's connection. When you reach out, even silently, you tell your body, I'm not alone in the weather. There's another bit of science that comforts me. The amygdala can be retrained. Every time you face a cue that once spelled danger and stay present through it, you rewrite the brain's forecast. That's exposure therapy in fancy terms, but in plain talk it means you can teach your body new skies, little by little, storm by storm. Healing anxiety isn't about never feeling lightning again. It's about knowing what it is, when it hits, and trusting the thunder will fade. It's remembering you have shelter now, even inside your own skin. And that brings us to the heart of it, learning to read the weather before it reads you. There's a moment after every storm when the world smells clean again. You know that scent, rain on dust, petrichor, the air lighter somehow. That's the body after anxiety passes. And Bean, it does pass. Every surge, every panic, every wave, it crests and fades. Your job isn't to stop the weather. It's to learn how to stand in it without losing yourself. Start by paying attention. Anxiety always leaves breadcrumbs, tiny cues that say, the barometer is falling. Maybe your jaw tightens, maybe your hands twitch, maybe your stomach knots before your mind even names a reason. They're not failures, they're forecasts. When you notice them, don't scold yourself. Say, thank you, body, for the warning. That small shift turns fear into partnership. Next comes grounding, the part where you remind your system that it's safe. The science calls it sensory regulation. I just call it coming home to your body. Feel your feet against the floor. Name what you see, 5 things. What you hear, 4 sounds. What you can touch, 3 textures. What you smell and taste, even if it's just coffee gone cold. That's you anchoring yourself in the present, telling your nervous system we're here, not there. If breathing helps, use the 4-7-8 rhythm. Inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. That long exhale tugs the vagus nerve like a bell rope, bringing out calm through the heart and the gut. You can almost feel the storm clouds thinning. Movement helps too. Shake out your hands, roll your shoulders. Walk to the mailbox, stretch in the kitchen, dance badly to one song you love. When your body moves, trapped adrenaline gets a path to drain. Anxiety is energy, motion gives it mercy. Then, connection. Reach for somebody safe. Send a text that just says, hey, I'm having a hard weather day. You don't need to explain it. Humans regulate through presence. We're wired to steady each other's pulse. That's not dependency, that's design. Some days the storm is gentle drizzle. Other days it's full-blown squall. But every time you ride it out without running, you teach your brain a new forecast. We can survive this. We don't have to panic at the thunder. In recovery, we say one day at a time. With anxiety, it's more like one breath at a time. The practice is the same. Stay present, surrender to what you can't control, and trust that peace isn't gone, just waiting under the clouds. So, if your body starts screaming before your mind knows why, remember, you're not broken. You're just built sensitive, tuned in to the weather of the world. That sensitivity is also where your empathy lives, your intuition, your artistry. It's the same radar that warns of storms that also lets you sense beauty before others do. Here's what I want you to take with you today. When the pressure drops, don't fight the sky. Breathe. Find shelter in your body, in your people, in a steady rhythm. And when the storm passes, because it will, step outside, breathe the clean air, and know that you made it through again. That's what healing anxiety really looks like. Not perfection, not endless calm, but knowing the weather and trusting yourself to handle the rain. This is Human Beings Radio, stories of growth, grace, and starting over. If these conversations help you steady your roots, pass it along. You can support the garden at buymeacoffee.com/Human Beings Radio, or simply leave a kind comment. Every share, every listen helps light reach a little farther. Now, stay rooted, because our next segment is Everything I Need to Know I Learned from PBS. Everything I Need to Know I Learned from PBS. Today's show I'm referencing Bill Nye the Science Guy. The episode was in Season 2 called The Brain. When I was a kid, it was Mr. Rogers who helped me name feelings. But years later, when my boys were small and I was the mama watching beside them, it was Bill Nye the Science Guy who showed us why we feel. I can still see it. Bill in that wild bow tie zipping across the screen shouting, "Science rules!" while neurons fired in animations across the screen. He made the invisible visible. Electric impulses racing through cartoon synapses, adrenaline molecules leaping into the bloodstream. At the time, I was half laughing at the sound effects, half taking notes in my heart, because suddenly all that fight or flight I'd been living with had a reason. Fear wasn't random. It was circuitry. Bill said fear is information, your body's way of saying something matters here. And I remember thinking, maybe I'm not crazy. Maybe I'm just informed. That simple line cracked something open in me. All those racing heart mornings, the sweaty palms before church or work or nothing at all. They were my body trying to keep me alive. Overzealous, sure, but not broken. Watching it with my boys, I wanted them to know what I never did, that anxiety isn't a character flaw. It's chemistry. It's the same system that lets you leap out of the way of a fastball or scoop a toddler off the stairs. It's the body's alarm and the body's art studio, both powered by the same spark. Bill made it fun, even funny. He showed us that the same surge that makes your heart pound in fear is the one that lets you fall in love, run fast, create art, or laugh until you can't breathe. Same body, different weather. Later that night I looked at my boys, juice boxes empty, Legos everywhere, and I realized that understanding the science takes the shame out of the feeling, because once you know why your body does what it does, you can start working with it instead of against it. So thank you, Bill Nye, for turning fear into curiosity, for teaching my kids and me that the body's alarm system isn't broken. It's brilliant. Sometimes it just needs a tune-up and a little compassion. And maybe that's the thread running through all of PBS, the idea that knowledge shrinks fear. You don't have to be afraid of what you don't yet understand. You can learn your way through it. That's science. That's recovery. And that's hope. We're in a lab coat. It's time now for a bean break, where we plant a seed, water it, and watch it grow. Today's seed is safety. Safety begins in the body. Anxiety is your body trying to protect you, sometimes too much, sometimes too loud. So right now, tell your body it's safe enough to rest. Unclench your jaw. Drop your shoulders. Feel your feet pressing against the floor, the earth holding you steady. That's the watering. Now whisper to yourself, I am allowed to be still. Each exhale is a signal to the nervous system that the storm has passed. And here's the growth. Safety isn't a destination, it's a practice. Each slow breath is you coming home to your body, one heartbeat at a time. You know, I thought since this episode's all about storms, we might as well check the forecast. So, welcome to the Weather Report, the part of the show where we take a look at emotional climate and see what fronts are moving through. Today's forecast, partly anxious with scattered clarity. A few early morning doubts rolling in from the east, but breaking up by evening with a 70% chance of perspective. That sounds funny, but if you live with anxiety, you know it's true. There really are weather patterns inside of us. Some days start calm and turn volatile by lunch. Other days look gray but never quite rain. And just like real weather, half the time it's not your fault. You didn't summon the clouds, you just woke up under them. That's what I wish someone had told me years ago. You don't have to take every emotional forecast personally. You are not the storm. You're the sky it's moving through. If you're in a low pressure system right now, it might sound like, I can't catch my breath, or I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. Those are anxiety's barometers dipping. When you notice it, try naming it out loud. Whew, pressure's falling, let's slow down. That simple sentence is a weather alert that tells your nervous system you're paying attention. And when the pressure rises, when you feel wired, buzzing, restless, think of it as your inner heat index climbing. You can't stop the air from warming, but you can open a window. Step outside, breathe real air, put your bare feet on something that isn't carpet. Nature recalibrates us faster than logic ever could. Most of us were taught to fear change, but weather is change. No storms last forever. Even hurricanes have calm eyes. The trick is learning what kind of storm you're in. Is it a fast one that needs patience or a slow one that's asked for rest? If you misread it, you end up running when you should be grounding or pushing when you should be waiting. I've had seasons where my forecast was nothing but thunder symbols for a month. Divorce, loss, burnout, caregiving. Back then I kept trying to fix the sky. Now I try to listen to it instead. There's a little note taped by my desk that says the weather will change, but you don't have to. It reminds me that calm isn't something you chase. It's something you recognize when it drifts back in. So, if your current map shows storms, that's okay. Build shelter, not shame. Call someone who steadies you. Light a candle. Fold laundry. Hum a song. Those tiny acts are your umbrellas. They don't stop the rain, but they make the waiting gentler. And if today's forecast is unexpectedly bright, sun after weeks of gray, don't waste it worrying about when the next front's going to move in. Step outside. Let the light hit your skin. Take the good weather as proof that change works both ways. Every nervous system has its own climate. Some of us are born tropical, big feelings, quick storms. Some are desert dry, slow to react, but lightning when it comes. There's no better climate, only awareness. When you know yours, you can pack accordingly. Water, rest, a soft place to land. So here's your official human beings forecast before we sign off today. Expect occasional doubt, intermittent courage, and long stretches of grace between showers. The outlook for tomorrow? Still human, still weathering, still worthy. That's the weather report. Let's head back on in. If you or someone you love is struggling with depression, anxiety, or addiction, please don't wait. Reach out to a counselor, a doctor, or a local support group. You can call 988 in the U.S. for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, 24 hours a day, every day. There's real help out there, and you deserve it. This message comes from Human Beings Radio, reminding you that healing starts with one brave conversation. I lean on the big blue book a lot. And this is Blue Book Findings. It was written to help folks beat back alcoholism, but what I've learned is that big blue book is really just a guide for being human. The steps, the honesty, the surrender, they work on every kind of storm, not just the one in a bottle. Today I'm referencing text from the Blue Book, from the Into Action. The quote is, "We are not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition." Now that's a line I love. We are not cured. What we have is a daily reprieve. That hits home for anyone who lives with anxiety, because anxiety doesn't vanish like a fever breaking. It eases, then it returns, and then it's tended. What we have is a reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our inner weather. Every morning is another chance to reset the system. In recovery talk, that's spiritual maintenance. In body talk, it's regulation. But both mean the same thing. Check your gauges before you run out of fuel. For me, that looks like a pause before the day starts. Hand on my heart, one deep breath, asking, how's the barometer today? If it's rising, I move slow. If it's falling, I call someone, stretch, or lay there a little longer. The Blue Book warns that complacency lets the old patterns sneak back in. Anxiety does the same. If you skip the basics, sleep, food, connection, and that internal alarm starts testing its batteries again, whew! But that's why recovery isn't perfection. It's practice. We don't get cured of fear any more than we get cured of being human. But we do get better at listening to the signal without surrendering the whole day to it. That's the reprieve, the space between feeling and reaction. I used to think serenity meant silence inside my head. Now I know it just means enough space to choose my next breath on purpose. The storm might still circle, but I don't have to climb inside it. And maybe that's what maintenance of our spiritual condition really means. Tending the light daily, even when the sky looks clear. It's remembering that peace isn't a permanent install. It's a living system. You feed it, water it, rest it, the same way you tend sobriety, grief, or faith. So, tonight, maybe whisper this with me. I can't always stop the lightning, but I can keep tending the light inside. That's recovery. That's resilience in motion. And if no one's told you today, your maintenance counts as a miracle. Be well, beans. Just remember, you won't stop the lightning, but you've got such a bright light inside. If what you've heard today feels like it met you where you are, take a breath and help it find the next person who might need it. That's how Human Beings Radio grows. Every time you share an episode, leave a kind review, or tell a friend, hey, listen to this. You help this little garden reach new listeners who could use a bit of comfort or company. Those small gestures add up to something real. You can find full episodes, transcripts, and behind-the-scenes updates at humanbeingsradio.com. And if you'd like to help keep the mics warm and the tea poured, you can visit buymeacoffee.com/humanbeingsradio to chip in or join the Bean Patch as a sustaining supporter. Every dollar goes right back into production and the creative work that keeps these conversations blooming. We also have a Human Beings Radio Facebook group, a gentle place to share thoughts, connect with others, and keep growing together in real time. Whether you stop by to listen, chat, or just read along quietly, you're a part of the community. Thanks for being here, for showing up, and for helping this project keep growing. Now, let's get back to the show. I've started keeping what I call the greenhouse journal. It's not a planner, not a diary, just a little patch of paper where I track what I'm growing, inside and out. Sometimes it's literal, like my mint is thriving again, it doesn't care about neglect. Sometimes it's emotional, like my heart feels overwatered today. Lately, every page reads like a weather report. Pressure dropping, storm watch in effect, light returning slowly around 3 p.m. Maybe that's just how my brain measures itself now, by some metaphorical barometer instead of a calendar. The truth is, anxiety and healing both move in weather patterns, not straight lines. When I sat down to record this episode, I flipped through those pages and realized how much of anxiety work is invisible gardening. You tend something you can't quite see, coaxing it toward calm. You prune habits that choke out sunlight, like overthinking, people-pleasing, skipping meals, skipping rest. And you water what steadies you. Breath, laughter, honest company, a walk outside the glass walls of your own head. And like any garden, it's never finished. You don't solve anxiety once and for all. You keep tending it. Some mornings the soil's dry and crumbly. Some nights it's soggy with too much emotion. Either way, you show up with your watering can and do the next right thing. I noticed something comforting when I reread those scribbles. The greenhouse never closes. Even on the days that feel barren, something's still germinating under the soil line. The trick is remembering that dormancy isn't death. It's a part of growth. Seeds look lifeless right before they split open. There's a line I jotted down last week. Today I misted the air instead of the leaves because sometimes you have to change how the care reaches you. That's anxiety care in a nutshell. Some days deep breathing works. Some days you just need proximity, another human beside you until your pulse remembers what safety feels like. Same care, different delivery. Another entry just says, the basil is bolting again. If you've ever grown basil, you know what that means. It's stressed and it's growing too fast and sending up flowers before it's ready. It's trying to prove that it's fine. Tell me that isn't the human condition. We bolt when we're scared or uncertain. We overcommit, overperform, bloom out of season just to prove we still can. But then, we wilt from the effort. But bolting doesn't ruin the plant. It just needs trimming and gentler light. And so do we. I think about how many times I've forced myself into the sunshine before I'd really recovered, and then wondered why I felt scorched. Sometimes healing asks for shade. Sometimes progress looks like staying put. When I look at that notebook, I see proof that anxiety isn't the enemy of growth. It's a signal of imbalance. It's what tells you the greenhouse got too humid, the glass fogged over, and the air stopped circulating. The answer isn't to smash the windows. It's to open one and let the air through. So if you're fogged up right now, Maybe your own greenhouse needs venting. Less pressure, more oxygen. That might look like turning off the news for an evening, or eating something warm before you answer one more email. It might look like closing your eyes for 30 seconds and whispering, "The weather will change." I used to think journaling meant finding solutions, but now I really do think it means making room for the truth. Because when you see it written down, the tension, the tenderness, it stops hiding in your body. It becomes something you can tend instead of something that tends to you. I don't write paragraphs. I write forecasts. Tiny, honest phrases. Air heavy but manageable. Rain likely after dinner. Hope sprouting in one neglected corner. They look small, but over time they chart a map of how resilience actually grows. If you don't have a greenhouse journal just yet, maybe start one. It doesn't have to be fancy. Use a notepad or a phone note or the back of a receipt. Write the temperature of your soul that day. Write what you watered, what you neglected, what still needs sunlight. Over time, you will see patterns, and patterns are how we learn our seasons. Maybe you'll notice that every Thursday your mood dips, or that every time you skip lunch, you spiral by evening. That's not failure. That's data. And data helps you care for yourself smarter, not harder. When I first began mine, I made the mistake of writing only when I was struggling. And those pages got heavy, like over-fertilized soil. Now I write the ordinary too. The laundry folded before bed, the dog snoring under the table, the friend who texted a meme at the right moment. Those small things are pollinators, and they keep joy circulating. Try that. Capture one line of light each day, even if it's dim. That's how you teach the brain to recognize safe weather again. Many times, this greenhouse is an actual place to me. A glass room behind my house, all warm wood shelves and overwatered pots. Instead of my mind palace, it's my mind greenhouse. And every anxious thought is a plant in there somewhere. Some are tidy and labeled, and others are wild and stubborn and climbing the walls. On bad days, I just sit inside and let them be what they are. The act of noticing is its own kind of care. You can do that mentally too. Walk through your inner greenhouse and take inventory. Which thoughts need pruning? Which feelings are thirsty for attention? Which ones just need you to open the window and stop trapping them inside? There's something deeply kind about treating your inner life like a garden instead of a problem. Gardens don't apologize for taking time. They don't compare their pace. They simply grow toward the light available. And they trust that seasons of rest are part of the design. If you're in a resting season, please hear me. Nothing is wrong with you. You're not lazy. You're latent. Every living thing has dormant cycles. Even the earth itself goes quiet between harvests. Your worth doesn't disappear just because you're not in bloom. Now, y'all might ask, what do you actually write in that journal? And here's the truth. It's messy. Some days it's a single sentence. Some days it's a sketch of a leaf or a coffee stain that I decide counts as art. There's no structure, no prompts. Just the question, what's growing today? Try that question for yourself. Maybe your answer is patience. Maybe it's grief. Maybe it's a little self-respect I didn't have before. Whatever it is, name it. Naming turns chaos into compost. It breaks things down so new life can grow through it. And don't forget to celebrate the resilient species, that mint that refuses to die, the friendship that keeps rooting back, the creative spark that sneaks up again after burnout. They're proof that persistence isn't glamorous, but it's holy. Whenever I notice one of those things, I jot a line: resilient sighted, watering schedule, trust. It reminds me that strength isn't something I earn, it's something I remember. Like a plant's instinct to reach toward light, even through cracks in concrete. I'll tell you something I realized last week. Every single entry, no matter how heavy, ends with gratitude. Not on purpose, it just happens. Because once you name what's real, your brain automatically looks for balance. It reaches for the good to even the scale. And that's healing in real time. Try it. After you write the hard thing, add one small thank you. Thank you for the body that still breathes through panic. Thank you for the morning light through dirty glass. Thank you for the chance to try again tomorrow. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it keeps the door cracked open for hope. I think the reason this practice works is because it gives form to the formless. Anxiety, grief, overwhelm, they live in the air until you anchor them. Writing them down plants them. And once planted, they obey the laws of nature. They change, decay, feed new things. So keep writing your weather. Even if today's entry just says visibility low, even if the ink smudges because you cried halfway through, you're still tending, and tending counts. So that's today's entry from my own greenhouse. Pressure low but rising, humidity manageable, gratitude sprouting in one corner. Whatever your forecast is, may your roots rest easy. Water what steadies you, and let the rest drain off. And remember, there's no such thing as wasted care. That's it from my greenhouse. So, I tell you what, my beautiful, beautiful beans, if you start that journal of your own, why don't you head on over to humanbeansradio.com and, drop me a line. Let me know what you're writing about and what your weather looks like. Till then, I want you to take care and hold it in your heart that you are not alone. I think we've made it to the time where I should bring in my final thoughts from the kitchen on this one. By the time we get to the kitchen at night, most storms for the day have passed. Not just the ones outside, but the little tempests that live between phone calls and expectations, between what we hoped would get done and what actually did get done. What's left usually are quiet, truth, and dishes. But that's when the noise of the day finally drains out and the real conversations begin. Sometimes out loud, sometimes only in your own head. You might catch yourself sighing for the first time all day, or realizing your shoulders have been up near your ears for hours. That's when you meet yourself again. Anxiety is a loud house guest. It barges in without knocking, rattles every cabinet, and starts rearranging your silverware. It insists on being noticed. It tells you something is wrong even when everything looks fine. But stillness? She's quieter. Stillness whispers. You don't have to earn calm. You can just let it happen. And that's hard to believe when your pulse still feels like a drumline. But stillness isn't the absence of feeling. It's the moment you stop arguing with what is. Sometimes I picture the day like a stew left simmering too long. Everything reduced, flavors deep but edges sharp. You can smell it thick in the air. That's when I start ladling out the excess. A journal line, a slow walk down the driveway, a cry that comes without words. It's just all skimming the pot before it boils over. We forget that tending ourselves is maintenance, not indulgence. If the pot never overflows, nobody thanks the cook. But it's still sacred work. If you're listening right now, with that leftover hum of worry in your chest, try this. Set both hands flat on the counter. Feel the cool surface, the grain of it, the weight beneath your palms. That counter has held every meal, every spill, every late night snack of your whole life. It's steady, and so are you. The earth's still holding you. The storm, whatever form it took, did not carry you off. When I was younger, I thought calm meant having nothing left to worry about. Now I know it's more like washing the last plate and realizing you don't have to rush to dry it. You can just let it sit there and air out. Calm is permission. It's the grace to stop performing survival for a minute and just simply exist. Maybe light's been shy today. Maybe you haven't laughed, or maybe you cried in the car, or maybe you did both, and that's all right. Morning always knocks again, and it never checks your to-do list before it does. I like to think the kitchen teaches that better than any therapist office ever could. It's where repetition becomes a ritual. Wash the dish, rinse, repeat. Feed the body, feed the soul. We return to it not because it's exciting, but because it keeps us alive. And that's how peace works too. Quiet, repetitive, and faithful. I've had nights when the only prayer I could manage was wiping the counters. Somewhere between the soap and the towel, I'd remember that even small motions count as care. And I think maybe that's what healing really is, a series of small motions, repeated often enough that your nervous system starts to believe you again. It's funny, people talk about self-care like it's bubble baths and face masks, but sometimes it's just giving yourself permission to sit down while the pot soaks. Sometimes it's a sandwich and a paper towel napkin at midnight because you finally realized hunger and shame don't belong in the same sentence. When life gets loud, our body starts shouting in symptoms. Tight chest, sore jaw, no appetite. And we think, I have to fix this. But what if instead we said, oh, sweetheart, you're so tired. That shift alone is medicine. Tender language softens the whole system. You can almost feel your pulse nodding in agreement. If you were here in my kitchen right now, I'd probably hand you a mug and ask how your day went. Not the polite version, the real one. What hurt? What helped? Where did you surprise yourself? We'd probably laugh about something ridiculous before the night was over because humor sneaks in even on heavy days. It's life's way of balancing the weight. That's what I hope this show does, really. Not to hand out answers, but to offer a chair and some light. To say, you're not broken, you're just human. Sit down for a minute. So if you're standing there in your own kitchen, maybe rinsing a plate or leaning on the counter, try this. Breathe in through your nose for 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 6. Then do it again. Feel the difference. That's your body remembering how to trust itself. You don't need a grand plan tonight. You don't need to solve tomorrow. All you need is rest between clouds. And if there are no clouds, just rest between thoughts. Eat something gentle. Toast, soup, tea, nothing fancy. Nourishment doesn't have to be impressive. It just has to arrive. Wash what you can. Leave the rest for tomorrow's self. They'll know what to do. They always do, even when you doubt them. And if no one's told you lately, you're doing beautifully for a person learning life as you go. There is no syllabus for being human. Some days you'll ace it. Some days you'll spill it. Either way, the kitchen light still turns on when you flip the switch, and that's worth something. I once heard someone say, we live our real lives in the transitions, in the walking to, the cleaning up, and the cooling down. I think about that a lot while doing dishes. Maybe healing isn't in the grand transformations, but in these little intermissions where we remember who we are between performances. So tonight, wherever you are, let this be your intermission. Lay down the role for a bit. Be the person under the costume, the one who's tired and hopeful in equal measure, the one who keeps showing up even when it's hard. You don't have to chase calm. It will come to find you. You just have to stop running from yourself long enough to hear it knocking. Maybe that's what all this quiet is trying to teach us, that peace isn't a reward, it's an inheritance. You've already got it. It just gets buried under noise. So, breathe. Let the kitchen hum hold you a little while longer. Let the smell of clean dishes and night air remind you that you're still here, still capable of gentleness, still worthy of your own care. And when the morning light touches your floorboards again, let it find you resting, not racing, because rest is what lets the next thing bloom. You've done enough for one day. Now, go wash your hands, turn off the kitchen light, and let the night carry the rest. You'll pick it up again tomorrow, with steadier hands, and maybe a little more grace. You've been listening to Human Beings Radio, a little garden for the mind, body, and spirit. If something from today's episode found a place to grow in you, share it with someone who might need a little bit of light. You can find show notes, upcoming topics, and ways to support the project at humanbeingsradio.com. And if you'd like to help keep this garden blooming, visit buymeacoffee.com/Human Beings Radio. Follow along on your favorite platform, leave a kind review if you can, find us on all the socials, and come back next time. We'll keep tending together. Until then, stay rooted, seek light, and remember, even after the hardest rain, the garden always finds its way back to green. Writing, graphics, and all the technical stuff was me, Mira Crowe, and the original music was my kid, John Henry. And before we close, a quick note. I'm not a therapist, doctor, or licensed counselor, just a fellow traveler sharing stories, research, and reflections that have helped me along the way. Nothing here is meant to replace professional, medical, or mental health advice. If you're struggling, please reach out to someone qualified, a doctor, therapist, or counselor who can walk that road with you. You don't have to do any of this alone. Help really is out there, and you deserve it.